Hello and welcome, djvicvapor with you. Back with another Ableton Live Advanced Concepts. And in this tutorial, we're going to take a look at several different techniques that we can use and apply in our productions and sounds that kind of deal with saturation. So one of the most important things before we get digging into having a little bit of fun with sound to understand about saturation is I would equivalent it to playing with fire. So when you're dealing with saturation, always be aware of your clipping and your levels. It's very, very important. You know, you can raise these up and down if you need to see them a little bit better in Ableton. I've got a limiter on the master just for the tutorial because I know some of the stuff we're going to do is pretty aggressive. So just kind of have that in the forefront of your mind when you're working with any of these techniques or applying any kind of saturation within your project, that typically it's going to be real easy to just kind of go nuts and get into the red and kind of overdrive and maybe even ruin the ultimate goal that you have. So with that being said, I've got a couple different channels set up here for different techniques that we're going to look at. First thing I want to talk about is what I call the wave shaper, which is, we don't need to look at this guy. I've just got the operator open for an instance for a sound. Let me turn off the saturator, don't need that. But let me show you the basic sound that we're working with on this first channel. Okay, and that's just an instance of operator with a couple little MIDI clips in there, nothing special. You can see a little pattern right here. So let's go ahead and apply saturator just at a default. As soon as you drag it and drop it, this is what you get. So not too noticeable of a difference. But when we start to dial in some of the drive, you'll start to feel the power of this analog clip shape, and you'll start to see the soft clip is going to square off some of the top harmonics. So pretty cool, but there's a lot more we can get involved with here. So what I want to show you is on this little drop down menu, something called the wave shaper right here. Now this guy, typically when you're looking at the saturator like this, you've got these, you know, different frequencies and width and depth and everything to work with for coloration. But when you select the wave shaper and you open up the triangle, you've got more to work with here. You've got drive, curve, depth, damp, and all that stuff. So it's a little bit more than's offered on some of the other settings. So let's kind of show you what I got in mind here. You can play with this curve and watch the shape. Let's take a soft clip on it. So that's pretty cool stuff right there. Built-in wave shaper for us to really distort and kind of bring some life to our sounds. But what I really like to do is apply the LFO to the curve, and then we get into some interesting stuff. So let's see what happens when we do that. I'll turn on the LFO, select map, select the curve, and now you can see we've got some modulation there. Some beautiful stuff. I'm going to turn back on the clip, and then we can dial in the rate, the depth, smoothness, jitter, and all that. And we can even change what kind of wave we want to work with. I'm going to leave it on the sine for now. And we'll just kind of explore a little bit, and I'll dial in some of the coloration. But you'll begin to notice how cool and how like alive the sound becomes just by using this simple little technique. really cool stuff. Hopefully that's given you some creative ideas on how to take advantage of the saturator and the wave shaper feature built into Ableton Live. Let me turn everything off here, and we will move on to the next idea I have for us, which is called multi-map, and it's also using the saturator. So I've got a instance of D16's faux Sycon, kind of an old school, bass sound deal. And we'll listen to the basic sound. So pretty generic, pretty old school. If that's the sound you're going for, right there it is. But we can actually add some life and bring that guy to life and make it sound completely different. Let's open up our saturator. I've got a little bit of about an 8 dB drive. I've got the hard curve setting, and I've dialed some parameters here for some coloration. So let's take a listen to what we got just after applying that. So pretty cool. It's really, you can hear some really unique harmonics being affected there, but still kind of stale. So let's bring it to life a little bit. In Max for Live, we've got the multi-map. So if you've got Max for Live with Ableton Live 9 Suite, or just if you've got it separate, go ahead and grab your multi-map, and what that's going to allow us to do is map up to all these different parameters over here and be able to control them with one knob. So let's go ahead and map some of our coloration here and see if we can really bring this sound to life. I will go map, bass, and then we can dial in a minimum and maximum right here. And I'm just guessing at that. So, and then we'll map the frequency. And we'll dial in a minimum and maximum as well. Let's map the width. And the depth. So let's take a listen to what I'm going to put the soft clip back on. And let's take a listen to see what kind of craziness we've achieved with just a little bit of multi-map and one button. So you can see if you have a project, you can automate this one button and have all those different coloration controls moving, and that sound now has more movement to it and more life as opposed to what we originally started out with, which was just this guy right here. And we achieved this. Listen to the movement. So pretty cool. All right, let's move on to the next channel I have here for us. Make sure I got these guys turned off, disengaged. Don't want any sounds from these guys bleeding through for us. And we're off over there. So let's go to what I call overdrive, another way to work with saturation and distortion and kind of bringing sounds to life. So what do we got here? I've got in here, this is an audio channel. I've just got like a sound effect. I think it's like a pig growling or something, but let's take a listen. Yeah. So one of the first things I like to do with sounds like this is go ahead and take the segment BPM and crank it up. And let's kind of hit the +2 side here. And let's just stretch it way out here. I think that's about as far as it'll go. Let's hear what that does for us. So pretty cool. And let's make sure we keep it on warp when we're doing this technique. So warp, and then make sure when you're stretching it out there, it's fooling Ableton into believing it was originally recorded that way. So let's go to textures and kind of fool around with the grain size a little bit to get a nice sound out of that. this loop up so it doesn't have to wait so long to get in. So we're going to go down. Kind of right in there is what we're shooting for. Alright, so let's go back to our channel now. And let's take a listen to what we can achieve just by applying some overdrive. And I'm going to add this convolution reverb pro that I've got set up. And you can see the preset down here, and I've dialed back the size, and I've got the dry wet kind of really low there. Bring down the gain a little bit just to kind of give this some space for a sound. Let's see what happens when we start messing with the dry wet tone. So some really interesting textures come flying out of there just by manipulating our overdrive. But what really comes into play is when we move this guy around up here. So you can kind of see where I'm going with this. We're going to activate our multi-map again, and we're going to start putting some things to work here. So let's map the drive, and we'll give that a little bit higher minimum, kind of maybe 50 or so. Max it at 100. Let's map our tone, kind of the same idea, bring it back up to around 50. Maybe, actually I'll start it a little lower. There we go. And now we can go map the frequency. Let's bring it right into here, and then we'll map the tone. Bring it up a little bit. And let's go down here and work with our dry, wet, and dynamics. Map the dynamics. Bring them up just a little bit here. And then we'll map the dry, wet. Bring it up a little bit. Alright, so now we've got just about everything we can here mapped to work with right here. So let's hear what's kind of really cool, interesting textures we can get just from kind of manipulating the overdrive. Let's do one thing here. Let's take the tone and we'll set it up to 100 and bring this down to 30 or somewhere in 20 there. Kind of reverse it so it goes opposite of the drive. Let's do the same with the frequency. Let's bring it up to 100 and down on this side. So hopefully that gives you some really cool ideas on a way to use overdrive to create some interesting textures and sounds. So continuing on with distortion, we've got the overdrive with a filter, which can add a whole nother dynamic to this guy. So we kind of explored what we can do with the overdrive just by manipulating a few of the parameters. But when we get into it with the auto filter, it's a whole nother ball game. So let's take a look at that. First of all, here's our sound. It's just an instance of Serum open. Kind of a nice drony little pad sound. Let's add some overdrive to that. Hear what we get. cool textures coming through there. Now let's play with the auto filter and kind of see what this guy can do for us. We're going to add movement by adding the, we're going to pick this kind of random shape here, and we're going to add movement that's going to drive. I've got the PRD setting here, but that movement is going to drive those frequencies in a whole nother way. And I've got the drive wide open, resonance set about 1 o'clock, frequency looks like it's about 3 o'clock. So let's take a listen to what we can achieve just goofing around with this LFO. What a cool texture right there. This is all trial and error and kind of experimentation. But listen to that, that sounds amazing. Different waves. Let's try some wave. That's pretty hot. That's a lot of fire coming out right there. So some pretty good stuff there. Pretty good. It's easy to get lost in the idea of what we're achieving here. So that being said, I am going to duplicate this channel right here that we're working with and show you one final exciting concept to wrap all these these little segments together. So we've got this guy. We don't need the auto filter. And I can get rid of the overdrive for now. So let's create a rack that incorporates kind of the concept for all these. So first thing I will do is go get the saturator. And let's right click and group this guy. And then let's add a multi-band effect in front. So a saturator right there, and then we'll create a duplicate twice. Have a high, mid, and a low. So on that one, I'll leave the saturator. This one, I don't need it. Or wait, do I? Yeah, I'll leave it on this one. I'll take it off on the high. On the high, let's do overdrive instead of saturation. So we'll bring that, add it to this. So we've got, let me label these real quick. Command R, high, and mid. And this will be our low. And the low part of the signal I'm not going to mess with. So on the high, we've got our overdrive, so that'll give us some sizzle. I'm going to, on the multiband, I'm just going to solo the corresponding bands here for us. And then low. Oh, wrong one. There we go. So now we've got the multiband, and I'm not going to be worried about any settings on that. So high, mid, and low. Okay, I got everybody the way I want them. Make sure I turn that back on. On the high, I just want to solo that and get some sizzle going. So let's take a listen to it. Make sure I get everybody else turned off. So it's coming through there, but let's kind of get some sizzle going. That's pretty intense. So it's some good high sizzle going right there. Let's take that off, and we will solo the mid. And on the mid, let's drive that bad boy nice and hot too. Not too much, but just make sure we're getting it. So now we got to dial in some coloration. I'm going to drive it up a little bit. And we'll pick our wave shaper on this one. And we'll adjust the curve. Give it some depth. Maybe we'll want to drive a little bit. There we go. And we're going to leave the low side alone. So let's hear what we've accomplished just by setting up a high, mid, low rack and using that one sound. We should have a nice division of textures happening for us there. Unsolo this guy. So really, really cool stuff there. Let's hear the original sound that we were working with before I applied all this. Pretty cool, but there's no life there. If you think about it, it's just kind of dull. And then with our effects rack. So there you have it, working with distortion and saturation to kind of create some really unique movement and dynamics in your sounds. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for pushing play, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Peace.